Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Riiv to receive the top 10 stocks to buy right now. One of the secrets of the tech industry is a lot of the biggest, most successful companies have these investment arms that have actually invested in some of the most successful startups of the last decade or more. And one of the most active companies is Alphabet and its well-known subsidiary, Google. I highlighted recently the venture capital arm known as Google Ventures, or GV, and I'll put a link to that video in the show notes. But the bigger impact may actually come from a venture capital arm called CapitalG. This is a more late stage venture capital arm as opposed to an early stage investment arm like GV is. And the number of companies they've invested in that have become really successful and very iconic is really amazing. So I wanted to dig into this segment of the VC investments that Alphabet is making. So let's dig into it right now. My name is Travis Hoium. Thank you for watching Riiv Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube. I appreciate all your support and for continuing to watch my videos. I wanted to start here with some of the base information about CapitalG. $4 billion invested into 55 companies. So if you do the math there, that's nearly $100 million per investment. That's a really big check to write for any company, especially a venture capital company. So this is, like I said, very late stage. These are companies that are often worth multiple billions of dollars, and we'll get into a few of those names. 16 IPOs and 9 M&A exits. So again, very successful given the fact that there's been 25 exits, as you would call it, in the VC space for only 55 companies that they've invested in. They also really talk a lot about how Googlers, or people who work at Alphabet, are advising these companies. So they've advised a lot of really well-known companies, and that's something that they really highlight on their website as well. So another thing that I wanted to highlight is that Alphabet is the only investor in CapitalG. So this is not a company that's taking outside investment. They're the only investor, and so Alphabet gets all of the upside, anything that doesn't go to some of the general partners. So what kind of companies have they invested in? And this is where I think things get really interesting. Even just this top row, some very well-known companies, CrowdStrike, Airbnb, Lyft have all IPO'd. Stripe actually could have IPO'd in the last couple of years, decided not to, and that may end up being a mistake because they just had to raise money to pay taxes of all things. You might be familiar with Cloudflare or Duolingo. These are other investments that CapitalG has made. Robinhood and FanDuel and Glassdoor. And as we get closer to the bottom of this list here, I think it's interesting. Snap has been public for a long time. So that's an investment that was made a very long time ago and was clearly very successful. And they have a number of other companies here that they've invested in. This is a venture capital firm that's making a little less than 10 investments per quarter. So like I said, really big checks. That means that they're not going to be all that active. They're not going to be writing $100,000 checks once a week. They're going to be much more prudent in the kind of investments they're making and picking these late stage companies, but obviously been very successful. And there's a couple of reasons that this is important for investors in a company like Alphabet. One is that Alphabet simply gets the upside financially of any exit that they have, whether that's companies being sold to somebody else or it IPOs. Alphabet can then sell that stock or hold it on its balance sheet. There's a long history in technology in particular of companies investing in other tech companies very early on and getting a huge financial benefit from that. There was a time when almost all of Yahoo's market cap was associated with its stake in Alibaba. And Google actually got investments from other major tech companies as well. So this is very common in the tech industry. Alphabet's operating at a scale, both its own market cap and also the investments that it's making in other companies that make it a little bit unique. And this isn't going to drive earnings necessarily going forward, but it is a big piece of the pipeline for the business. The other thing is that when you invest in a company like this at this kind of scale, it can push those companies to use your services. So using the G Suite, using Google Cloud, that can be the kind of tailwinds that a company like Alphabet gets from these kinds of investments. Maybe just a little nudge in the direction of using the Alphabet suite of tools for a $100 million check. Now, not all of these investments are going to pan out, and oftentimes they don't even get reported very clearly on financial statements because it's such a small piece of the business. But at the end of the day, this is a very important part of what Alphabet does in the Silicon Valley ecosystem. And you can see they've actually been very successful with these venture capital investments in the late stage. So something to keep in mind when you're making an investment thesis in a company like Alphabet is that they do have this value that's on the balance sheet that doesn't necessarily show itself every single quarter, but there will be an IPO here and there that will bring in a flood of cash, and that's a nice little benefit to have for a company like Alphabet. So what do you think about these investments in the venture capital style in Alphabet? I'd love to hear your comments in the comments section below. Please subscribe to Rev Investing. Give this video a like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you here next time.